guess I wanted to look at the way we're made sexually, at what we do with that, about the relationship between lust and love, between the physical and the spiritual. And I thought that by looking at extremes, by looking at four fairly dramatic stories of lust and love, I could then look back inward at the center.
Of course, there are all sorts of other kinky sexual preferences that you ignored. I'm not going to even mention them because people get upset. They may get upset hearing about the four that we're discussing today, in fact.
I just think it's important to stress that what I was trying to illuminate was really the universal within us. I think, Freud has fallen into tremendous disfavor over recent decades, but one thing he knew for certain was that the erotic is this central force within us, no matter what we do with it, tamp it down, push it to the side, live with it consciously. It's there, and this was my way to look straight at it.
In some cases, we're talking about criminal activity. In other cases, the kind of activity most people are not willing to admit to.
Right. And maybe I should just try to encapsulate, at the risk of sounding really strange, one of the stories. And that's the last of the four, the one that I think of as the love story. And in it, Ron, an advertising executive who puts together the most conventional campaigns with the most conventionally gorgeous women, feels absolutely nothing for them, has always been drawn by the strange substitution that's occurred to women who are amputees. He meets a woman, Laura, lovely, bright, who never felt she was going to go beyond high school, indeed doesn't, is in a horrific car accident and loses both her legs. They meet and fall in love, and with her as his muse, he lets go of the advertising, starts becoming an art photographer in a way that I think really has the power to change the way we see. And she goes back to school and becomes what she's always wanted to be, which is working in psychology, counseling the mentally ill. It's a story that sounds improbable, but at the end, for me, brings together desire and love in this beautiful way.
Have you spoken to any of the women amputees who are the objects of the desires of men like Ron?
Many, and
And does it work the other way? Are there women who are as obsessed by male amputees?
There are some, and I think there are two questions on the table. One is about the differences between men and women when it comes to what's called paraphilias, that is, desires that lie outside of the norm. The other is, in this specific case, some female amputees are very wary of men like Ron, feel that they're predatory, and others, like Laura...
And they're being objectified, aren't they?
Exactly. They're being objectified, and yet, are they really being objectified any more than any of us are, or is it only the difference that sort of highlights that physical aspect?
My first reaction is to see Ron as something similar to the men who would have women's feet bound in China, because that made them dependent, that took away a certain amount of their freedom. And so there's something, I don't know whether it's controlling or a need to be there and help somebody who is in a bad situation. I'm not exactly sure how I would explain it, but in all cases it makes me feel slightly uneasy.
And I think this book will make readers feel...
bound feet make me feel very uneasy.
Agreed. And I think the book will make readers feel, on the one hand, slightly uneasy, but I think that's because the erotic realm makes all of us slightly uneasy. And I just hope that at one level deeper than that uneasiness will come a kind of illumination.